You've probably heard of the infamous and terrifying Hatman, but honestly, I've never heard of him in any scarier context than in the true story I'm about to tell you. This is Rattled and Shook. I'm Meredith, and I'm going to read you a bedtime story. I want to tell this story exactly as it happened to me and two of my good friends because honestly, it still gives me chills to this day just to think about it. This happened back in 2008. These two friends of mine are friends I grew up with. We all went to high school together and even went to college together. As adults, we ended up living only a town apart from each other when we all got married and raised our kids. One night, we decided to head back to our hometown for a play. I remember it was a community play, a fundraiser for domestic violence that a mutual friend had invited us to. We decided to carpool together, have dinner and drinks beforehand, and enjoy a night out without our kids. It was February, one of those weird New England days when the weather just can't make up its mind. Usually it's freezing cold in February, but on this day, it was unusually warm. It had been raining steadily all day, a soft, muggy rain that made you think spring might be coming early. Because it was so unseasonably warm, the whole day kind of felt off somehow. We went to dinner and then to the play. By the time it ended, about 9 p.m., the MC got up on stage and announced that the weather had drastically changed while we'd been inside. The temperature had dropped dramatically over those few hours, and there were now reports of accidents all over the highways. Cars sliding off ramps, pile-ups, and emergency crews everywhere. We were warned to be extremely cautious driving home. Because the temperature had fallen so fast, the trucks hadn't been able to sand or salt the roads. The rain had turned to ice. In New England, we call that black ice. For people who aren't from here, it's when rain or melted snow freezes instantly on a cold surface. On roads, it looks like wet pavement, not frosty or white, which is why it's so dangerous. You don't realize it's there until your tires start sliding. It's like someone poured oil on the road. The road we'd taken to the event was a beautiful old back road connecting the two towns. It's officially designated as a historic scenic route, the kind of road locals use to avoid commuter traffic. It's long and winding, lined with trees. Roads like this in New England were laid down centuries ago, often following old cart paths or native trails. They twist unpredictably through dense woods and farmland. Along the way, you pass colonial-era farmhouses, white steepled churches, little ponds, and low stone walls built by farmers long ago. In daylight, these roads are idyllic. Giant maples and oaks arch overhead like a cathedral. Smoke drifts from chimneys. In autumn, the leaves blaze red and gold. But at night, it's another world. No streetlights, no shoulders. Huge trees crowd close to the edge of the road. The roads were never widened, so there are no easy turnarounds or quick pull-offs. Once you're on, you're committed until the end. Locals know how treacherous these can be in bad weather. That night in February 2008 was one of those nights. After hearing the announcements, we huddled together to decide what to do. The highway seemed more dangerous because of the higher speeds and lack of sanding, so we chose the slower back road, thinking it would be safer. As soon as we stepped into the parking lot, we knew how drastically the temperature had dropped. We could see our breath, which hadn't been the case earlier, and when my foot touched the blacktop, I almost instantly slid. The pavement was slick as oil. We had to walk very carefully just to reach the car. From the moment we got inside, it felt stressful. My friend in the back seat leaned forward between us to see the road. My other friend sat rigidly in the passenger seat. None of us spoke. Normally, the three of us are always talking and laughing. That night, we just stared ahead in silence. You could hear us breathing. Even the radio sounded too loud, so I switched it off. I can still picture the glow of the dashboard casting shadows on our faces. My hands locked on the wheel. We were all leaning forward, eyes fixed on the pavement. I felt this strange vulnerability, like I was a little kid again, not a grown woman in my 40s, with my 2 childhood friends. We quickly realized how hard it was to keep the car on the road. Every time I went over like 7 to 10 miles per hour, the tires spun. And even at very slow speeds, we'd slide to the opposite side of the road on turns. We were lucky no one else was on the road that night. It made it less likely we'd hit another car. But it also felt eerie and isolating. It was just us on this dark, empty road. About a third of the way down the route, a strange fog rolled in. It was the kind of fog created when humid air and rain get trapped by a cold front. It pooled thick and low in the dips and hollows along the roadside, denser than any fog I'd ever seen at night. Later I learned this is called radiation fog. Within minutes, it turned into a rolling white wall that hugged the car. The huge trees lining the road seemed trapped in it. No matter what I did, high beams, low beams, even turning the lights off for a second, nothing improved visibility. It felt claustrophobic. We could only see a few feet ahead. Objects would appear out of nowhere, and we couldn't tell if we were about to drive off the road or into a tree. We slowed to a crawl. Honestly, we could have walked faster, and the stress in the car just kept building. We whispered about stopping or turning around, but it didn't feel safe to sit there or risk reversing. It seemed the only option was to keep inching forward, even at 5 miles per hour. Time slowed to a standstill. My palms were sweating. The only sounds were the tires moving and our breathing in the dark glow of the dashboard. It was one of the eeriest car rides of my entire life. Then, out of the white fog, something appeared on the edge of the road. At first it was just a movement, low to the ground. My brain tried to make it into a tree limb or a mailbox, but then I saw a single black, polished shoe. Someone was walking on the road. Another step, a black-clad leg. Then piece by piece, a man emerged like a photograph developing in a dark room. First, impossibly long legs. Then a sweep of a long black coat. Black gloved hands at his sides. And still the figure kept rising higher and higher until we realized he was at least 7 feet tall. Finally, his head came into view. A thin, stark face, pale as paper, almost glowing against all that black. And then the top hat. A tall, old-fashioned top hat, like someone running a Victorian circus. In that split second, I had to tilt my head to see his entire body through the windshield. He didn't look human. This unearthly figure painted into the fog. It was absolutely terrifying. The road was so narrow and the woods so close that when we reached him, he was inches away from the passenger side window where my friend sat. She could have touched him if she'd reached out. At that moment, we realized the car doors weren't locked. My hands were trembling as I tried to press the gas, but on the ice, the tires just spun. We were sliding in slow motion inches from this man, feeling completely helpless and exposed. He turned towards us, a slow, deliberate movement, his gaunt white face with deep-set, shadowed eyes under that big black hat. He looked lit from within, though there was no light source. That's when our terror snapped. My friend next to me made a strangled, animal-like scream, a sound I'd never heard before or since, and it broke through whatever thin thread of control we had. All 3 of us started screaming at the top of our lungs. It was pure panic, like being dunked underwater unexpectedly and realizing you can't breathe. Your whole body takes over, your mind goes white. And then just as suddenly, he was gone, absorbed back into the fog. You'd think that would bring relief, but it made everything worse. We were still crawling along, terrified he might step back into the road. Every shadow or flicker of movement set off another spike of panic. When we finally reached town, I felt like I'd run a marathon. I dropped my friends off, and the next day we got together to talk about it. We kept asking what happened. Why would someone be on the road dressed like that in that weather? Why was he so tall? Did we really see that? We tried to rationalize it, but each time we retold the story, we validated each other's memories. It left us with this weird feeling of, what the hell did we experience? Years later, at a big family dinner, my niece started telling my kids about the Hatman, a phenomenon hundreds of thousands of people report, a shadow-like figure that appears during times of intense fear or sleep paralysis, wearing a black coat and a top hat, always very tall. As she described it, I froze. The memory of that night came roaring back. Learning that what we saw was something many others have experienced didn't bring any relief, really. If anything, it confirmed that we'd had an otherworldly encounter. It did make me want to share our story, though, so that other people who've gone through something like this know that they aren't alone.